Do not adjust your screen. We are back. Tommy Gain here, TG for Tommy Talk. Happy to be back with you, as always. Thank you for tuning in. You are watching this right now at the earliest on the 9th of January, the year of our Lord, 2025. Recording this late on the 8th of January, 2025. You may notice we're not in the studio we were in last week, and there's a good reason for that. The reason is I recorded this whole episode. I went down there. I did my razzle-dazzle, all my cool tricks and stuff like that, got all gussied up. And then I go to edit. Guess what? It's gone. The file was corrupted. So I don't even know how that happens. I'm not an expert. I'm not a tech nerd like our good friend Zachary Lyons. But it was corrupted. So I don't know. So temporary studio. I still want to give the good people the content that they deserve because they are good people. Of course, that content includes some great gridiron talk, great gridiron happening this weekend, post-season football, and it's bittersweet because we now have ended all regular season games in both the pros and college football, which is disappointing. Obviously, it's exciting to watch the regular season action, and it means that we're getting that much closer to the end of football. However, we also get some great matchups, some great, memorable, incredible moments. Now, that's mostly, I think, going to be in the college ranks on Thursday and Friday, and not as much over the weekend going into Monday in the pro ranks, but whatever. And we'll start there in the college ranks. First up, the Orange Bowl, the 7th seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish versus the number 6 seed Penn State Nittany Lions. Notre Dame favored by 1.5 points. And when I look at this matchup, I think about the dichotomy between two coaches. One, the upstart young guy. He took the job when the old guy got out of Dodge, basically because he was under some impression that it was the fault of the university and of the circumstances involving the university for why he couldn't win it all. And now he's come in and he had a couple tough years where he had some tough losses. However, now, this year, after maybe the toughest loss against Northern Illinois, they have rocked it back up and they won a huge game, probably the biggest game he's won so far in his tenure at Notre Dame against Georgia. And then on the flip side, you have the other coach who was a young upstart, had a great start at Vandy, slow start to his career starting into Big Ten play, but then he rocketed to the moon in 2016 and should have made the playoff, but then got screwed out of it. And since he's stepped on recruiting at a high level but can't win the big game. Big games seem to go by him. He's won a couple of big things. He won a Rose Bowl, for example, but he hasn't been able to beat his biggest rivals. He hasn't been able to make the playoff before this year. And so far in this playoff, he's played relatively weak competition. And the two I'm describing, first one, Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. Second one is James Franklin from Penn State. This is a spot where I really think Penn State's going to crumble. Primarily because, both sides, I think, are massively talented. However, I think Notre Dame will dominate them in the trenches. I think that they're a stronger team, a mentally stronger team. I think they have a better quarterback in Riley Leonard. Maybe not as talented, per se, than Drew Aller, but I think he is the better quarterback at the moment than Drew Aller. People in Penn State are apparently, I said this before, they're in some alternate universe where, Drew Aller, if he went in the NFL draft, he'd go, top 10. Which is redonkulous. It ain't happening. You're living in a fairy tale land. You're drinking the happy juice in the Happy Valley. Come on, give me a break. And I expect the Notre Dame defense to give him fits. Give me the Irish. Give me the Irish big. I said on Twitter, giving him 17.5, and they didn't have it 17.5, so I took them 13.5. That's how confident I am in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish this week, or not this weekend, today when you're watching this, Thursday. So, give me the Irish. And then, the other semifinal game, the number 8 seed Ohio State Buckeyes versus the number 5 seed Texas Longhorns in the Cotton Bowl. Listen, it's going to be tough, I think, for Texas fans because I think this is a very talented Texas team, held back a little bit by what I think has been some weak play by Quinn Ewers. Obviously, they had a nice dominant win against Clemson, and then they just barely squeaked one out against Arizona State. I think this team has the talent, certainly has the talent to win it all in a lot of years. I just think that they run into the $20 million roster over at Ohio State. Massively talented, huge talent. And what looked to be their Achilles heel at quarterback with Will Howard, I said he was Won't Howard. I said do you expect him to be an improvement over, the Honda McCord, Kyle McCord. However, in the last 2 games, he has put his playmakers in a position to make plays again in both the Tennessee game and the Oregon game. And he just came off he avenged one of his biggest mistakes of the season, that slide that cost him the game the first time against Oregon, with a dominant win against Oregon the second time. This Ohio State defense also gets to the QB. I think Texas, it also is a problem for Texas that Quinn Ewers, although he at times has been great, there is a reason why I think he's going to be in college next year, but not at Texas. Because I think Arch Manning is the better quarterback on that roster, and he's going to move on somewhere else. So, give me Ohio State minus the 6. I love the Buckeyes. I love a Notre Dame Ohio State national championship. Credit to Ryan Day, because me and many other people were the buzzards circling around what looked to be his carcass after that loss to Michigan, after that super embarrassing loss to Michigan. But, for all his faults and all the losses against Michigan, Georgia, etc., for the most part, 99% of the time, he wins. He's a winner. In big games, he wins. And despite everything, despite all the failures and disappointments when they get to the national championship or the playoff or the Michigan game, he still has won at a much better clip than James Franklin, who can't beat Ryan Day. So I think Ohio State has to be the odds. It is the odds-on favorite and has to be far and away the favorite to win the national championship. Even though I think Notre Dame is a talented roster, I think that game probably stays close and then Ohio State pulls away. But we'll wait. We're going to wait till the national championship is set before we do that preview. But still, moving on into the NFL Wildcard weekend, we have 6 games. Now, I think overall, these aren't as interesting when it comes to combining narratives going into these games. I mean, each individual game, I think, has some really interesting narratives in and of themselves. The Chargers at Houston. Chargers are favored by 2.5. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh returning to the NFL. Justin Herbert getting another shot at the playoffs. Houston having a little bit more of a down year than people expected. CJ Stroud regressing a bit, I would say, from his incredible performance last year. I don't like 2.5 points because I think that could be a field goal game, but I still like the Chargers to win. If you put a gun to my head and money line, I'd definitely go Chargers. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Baltimore 9.5 point favorites. Will Russell Wilson be the next quarterback? Be the quarterback going in next year for the Steelers? That's an interesting question. I mean, this 4-game losing streak has, I think, a lot of people in the Steel City asking, is this the guy long term? Do we go to Justin Fields next year? Is Justin Fields the guy long term? Spoiler alert, he's not. However, he had the great start to the season. It's tough seeing him fall off like that. But, and I think of what's going to happen next may really come down to how he plays here against Baltimore. And if they can pull off the upset, maybe you take another look at him for next year. But I think Baltimore ends up winning this game. Perhaps I wouldn't take the 9.5. If you put a gun to the head, maybe Pitt plus 9.5 could be the play, but I would stay away just because that feels like a very volatile situation. And of course, everything going on with Lamar, the MVP, and stuff like that. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Denver at Buffalo. Denver, Bo Nix. A pretty great story. I was not expecting him to be really a threat at all at the NFL level, and he has blown away my expectations. Credit to Sean Payton. Sean Payton's plan has worked. It has most definitely worked. I think a lot of people were doubting him. I was doubting him. And he's delivered. And it's credit to the management as well. George Payton trusted Sean Payton. Sean Payton trusted Bo Nix. And Bo Nix has delivered. So credit to Denver making the postseason for the first time since 2015. More specifically, the last postseason game they played was the Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers. And the quarterback of that game, Peyton Manning. But in this game, 8.5-point underdogs to the Buffalo Bills. I'll take the Bills minus 8.5, to be honest with you. I think this Bills team, and again, this goes into the argument later, led by Josh Allen, has exceeded a lot of expectations, and they've been dominant. We'll get into them in a minute. Green Bay at Philadelphia. Green Bay the 7th seed, Philly the 2 seed. Philly 4.5-point favorites. Green Bay coming into this game as deflated as it can be. I mean, you lose Christian Watson against the Bears, and then you lose that game against the Bears, a game that you felt like you could win. Obviously, Jordan Love is back, but is he going to be 100%? I don't know. Philly's been dominant all year long. Philly beat them earlier this year. I get it. That was with Malik Willis at quarterback. However, Philly, a team that looked like they might be replacing their coach after this year. Early on this year, people were saying that. They're looking great right now. Them and the Lions, I think, are neck and neck as the best teams in the NFC. So I definitely take Philly minus 4.5. Then Washington at Tampa. Washington the 16, Tampa the 3 seed. Tampa the 3-point favorites. Dan Quinn, another guy I doubted a lot. I still don't really trust him in the long term. In the long term, I don't trust Dan Quinn to be the guy in Washington because I saw how everything went after his surrounding coaches left in Atlanta, the debacle there. However, when you have a guy like Jaden Daniels, who has this year he's the runaway rookie of the year, I think there's no question about that. He has delivered in a real way, and Dan Quinn has made this roster work in ways that we weren't expecting them to. I mean, they were able to fix offensive line problems on the fly. Credit to Dan Quinn, credit to the Commanders. I like the Commanders +3 here. Finally, Minnesota at the Rams. This game might be moved to Arizona because of the wildfires going on in California. Minnesota, again, like Green Bay, coming off an absolutely deflating loss against the Lions. And the Rams, I said the Rams were going to fall off a while ago because they lost guys. They lost Aaron Donald. And Matthew Stafford's getting older. You would expect that there would have been much more regression. And there has been regression compared to the Super Bowl year. However, they've still been able to make the playoffs consistently. So I do like the Rams minus 0.5 point here. My father was mentioning the other day he hadn't really seen half-point spreads that much before. And here it is, half-point spread. But as I talked about, there was other storylines with Buffalo and with Baltimore. The MVP race heating up. Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson, I think, is pretty clearly one of those two is going to end up winning the MVP. And there are some convincing arguments for both. And if you notice, if you look at the stats, Lamar has more passing yards. Lamar has more passing touchdowns. He has more overall touchdowns, rushing yards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people will ask, if that's the case, why do you not give it to him? Why is Josh Allen favored right now? And I think there are two specific reasons. Number one, voter fatigue. Voters don't love voting for the same guy 2 years in a row. It's a whole thing, unless that guy who they're voting for 2 years in a row blows the other competition out of the water. All right. But number two, I think might be more important, and that is the fact that Josh Allen going into this year, he loses to Stephon Diggs. He looks like this team is going to move out of their Super Bowl window. And instead of regressing, they seem to be even more dominant this year than last year, where they had some real issues. And now they get into, as the 2 seed, they're the only team this season to beat a full-strength Kansas City Chiefs team. I understand the Chiefs lost to Denver week 18, but that was when they rested everybody. The week where they were actually putting everyone and trying to win with every single person, Mahomes and company. Guess what? Guess who beat them? The only people who beat them. The Buffalo Bills. So the Bills have overperformed despite the fact that the people around Josh Allen has deteriorated. He does not have a 1,000-yard rusher. He does not have a 1,000-yard receiver. However, this team's been dominant. So I would take Josh Allen for those purposes. Now, if you said, oh, we gave it to Lamar, I wouldn't be angry. I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't throw my arms up and say, this is an outrage. I'm just saying that looking at those two from those parameters, I would give it to Josh Allen. But that's just my opinion. People can vehemently disagree any way they want to. Finally, NFL head coaching search is going on. A few different candidates being thrown around there. My Chicago Bears, and listen, this isn't a Chicago sports podcast. This is a national sports podcast. I know that. Okay? I know that. I'm not an idiot. Okay? However, I think it's important to address this Bears situation. It needs to be one of two guys. Ben Johnson, number one, or number two, Mike Vrabel, in that order. I think anyone else, feels like a failure, and it feels like you didn't get the right guy. You didn't get the guy, your guy. You got like a substitute. Maybe they still could be an okay coach, some of them. Guys like Liam Cohen, guys like Joe Brady. Some of them, I think, would be an absolute disaster. We'll get to them in a minute. But those two guys, I think, the ones you need to get for your franchise's future. And for Ben Johnson, it's pretty clear from the little tidbits that have been thrown out throughout the season. He was interested in the Bears job last offseason if they had let Eberflus go. He seems very, very interested in this job. He's accepted the interview. He would get to work with a young, dynamic QB in Caleb Williams, who needs someone to mold him. So he would seem to be a great fit there. Now, can the Bears convince him they have the right plan, the right people in place, that he, will they be willing to give him enough power in that situation to be able to make changes as he sees fit, possibly? I hope so. Ryan Poles needs to, sack up. He needs to swallow his pride and say, hey, Ben, we're going to work more hand in hand. I'm still the GM, but we're going to be working hand in hand here to turn the ship around. We have talent on this roster. We can still, make improvement in different places. The offensive line is not good. So I think, the Bears, it's just about proper planning, which they haven't been good at. Proper planning around Ben Johnson to convince him to come there. But we'll see. And then to Mike Vrabel, that's a big culture hire right there. He's a guy who knows how to handle NFL players. He's a former NFL player. Not always former NFL players make good head coaches, but he's one who has in Tennessee. People don't realize you need a specific touch to coach these guys. Professional athletes, it's different than college. College, it can be a little bit more hard edge, a little more hard ass. There's a reason why Deion Sanders says he does not really want to go to the NFL. I think a big part of that is, even though he was an NFL player, I'm not sure as a coach he is cut out to do the whole NFL player shenanigans. Or, to deal with that and to balance both the professionalism and the discipline. I think Mike Vrabel did a great job of that in Tennessee. Now, I think there is a reasonable expectation that he'll go to the Patriots. And there's a good reason for that, because he, as part of the New England Patriot family, former player, knows the crafts, all that stuff, for a Belichick guy. I get it. However, if you can get him, and I know they're interviewing him, and if you can't get Ben Johnson, I think Mike Vrabel is still a very good hire. Now, like I said, Liam Cohen, Joe Brady, I think would be both good hires. Even Cliff Kingsbury might be okay. However, there are a couple guys being thrown out there that I think are just really bad ideas. Mike McCarthy, they requested to interview him, still on contract, but the Cowboys, come on. Listen, I know 3 straight, 12-win seasons with the Cowboys for this, and then this year the Cowboys lost basically everybody, and they still won 7 games. But just to retread like that, watching him on the side, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I don't think Bears fans can do it. It's just disgusting. Oh, gosh. You're just feeling like you get, a second helping on everything. It sucks. Third helping. Sorry. Ugh. And then, like, a guy like Pete Carroll, who's too old. I like Pete Carroll. 5 years ago, tell me Pete Carroll. Maybe I'm like, sounds good. But you want a guy who's around long-term. A long-term guy. Both Johnson and Vrabel would be long-term guys. Guys you could see there for the next 10 years, 15 years. Who knows, 20 years. I don't know if things go well enough. But the Bears are obviously casting a wide net, like 17 or 18 different people they're interviewing, maybe even more by the end of the interview process. Will that dilute things down and things not work out well? I don't know. We'll see. In any case, folks, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe and please follow at TommySGHAN. Comment, subscribe, like on this channel, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. In any case, folks, thank you all for watching. I'm Tom again, and this has been Tommy Talk. Clink. I got a soda stream for Christmas, which I like a lot. The generic sodas, I understand they have like Pepsi flavored ones. I don't love Diet Pepsi. The generic flavored sodas are all right. There's like Diet Cola. I put like lime juice in it. I think it makes it better. I think it's pretty good. I also got like a diet lemon lime thing. I mostly drink diet sodas. So, not bad. Cheers, everybody. See ya.